So being a online software developer, I get the question of how do I protect my images online asked on a frequent basis. And I think the best answer I have to that is deterrence. There is no foolproof way of putting an image on the internet and making so nobody can download it or screenshot it. And so there are a lot of little things though that you can do. Very simple things, like in Lightroom and in Capture One, you can easily update your copyright and copyright terms in the EXIF metadata. You can also add in a lot of information there about the creator. You can put URLs to your website, and that's just in the metadata of the file. Now, what you have to remember though is that metadata isn't automatically exported, and so when you export that file from a RAW to a JPEG in order to put it on your website, you have to explicitly in Lightroom as well as Capture One tell it what metadata tags you want to include in that file. And there's also another little downside to that as well. So let's say you export your file as a JPEG, 19 by 20 pixels on the long side. You then include your copyright metadata in the file, and so I could go view that metadata and it all looks great. But then me as, let's just say, a pirate, I go and download that file. I open it up in Photoshop. I then re-export that file as, let's just say, a PNG or maybe just a different format of JPEG. It will erase your metadata that you've saved there. So there's that risk that you take, unfortunately. The upside to including that metadata, though, is that many stock photography sites will actually look at that metadata, and that could potentially create a flag for somebody trying to infringe your copyright and plagiarize your image. So it's not all bad, but again, it's just these little tiny deterrences that you kind of need to throw in order to protect yourself. So the next thing, which is very common, which is watermarks. And I definitely recommend watermarking on basically portraits and stuff that will easily be reused or could be reused on social media. But for fine art stuff, I kind of go against that a little bit because I want the potential buyer to really see the detail of the picture without the distraction of some image or verbiage like copyright all over my picture. And if the user really has no intention to purchase from you, but they're just looking at your website and they're going to download your pictures for whatever use, for wallpapers or newsletters, that type of simple stuff where high resolution images really aren't necessary, unfortunately they're going to find a way to do it. It is not difficult to go beyond the right-click Save As on a web page. All you have to really do is inspect the HTML of the file, and there is a tab in the inspector called Sources, and it will list every asset that's on that web page. And so it makes it really simple to download just about anything on that page that they want to at that point. And so to deter from this a little bit, especially on the fine art side, what I tend to do is lower my JPEG resolution. And you might notice when you do export your JPEG file, it'll allow you to pick the quality level, 0 to 100. And so I tend to use 60, 65 as my resolution quality, because one of the things that will happen there is as the picture gets bigger, it will degrade a lot quicker because the finer details of that JPEG file just aren't there, but not really visible to the human eye on the screen than they would be to something actually printing it. And so my settings for website stuff here is probably about 1920 on the long side, quality of my JPEG 60, 65, and at 72 dpi. Usually produces a nice balance of file size to image quality. The next thing though, speaking of online, is using a robots.txt file to block out your main image directory or folder on the server. And so my robots.txt file, I simply can just put a disallow on /images and an asterisk for just anything that crawls the website from Google to Yahoo, and that will at least help deter those search engines from indexing them, which would make it easier for people to find in a Google image search. What surprises me though is I find that the Google Spider, the Google bot, actually hits my site looking for images frequently. And so it could be also doing that to your site as well. I mean, what it comes down to is if somebody wants your picture, they're going to find a way to get it. It just goes back to the early days of movie and music copyright infringement. People were downloading that stuff all the time, and it didn't matter how difficult those industries made it. People wanted it bad enough, they figured out ways around it. And so the same comes true with really nice pictures on the internet. People they might see that, they may want to use it for the wallpaper of their computer. They're going to figure out how to download that picture and use it on their computer. I think the last thing that is important, especially if you think your rights are being infringed upon, which is compliance, and checking out a website like DMCA. In fact, you can go ahead and get an online free account. You can put a little badge on your website, DMCA protected. You can also, they have some different plans for scanning and filing DMCA complaints and all sorts of stuff. So I hope you found this information helpful, and if you have any tips or ideas on how to keep your images a little better protected online, that's from your own website to social media, please post it in the comments below, and please don't forget to click that subscribe and like button below. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you on the next cut.